Oh man, she looked terrified.
Marks the 1,000th day of the war between Russia and Ukraine. It started in February of 2022 when Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine, with Moscow beginning its invasion and launching airstrikes on cities and military bases. Now, as the conflict continues, President Biden has just announced that his administration will allow Ukraine to use U.S. supplied long range missiles to strike inside of Russia. Joining me
Why would he do that?
now is the Hill's Brett Samuels with the latest. Brett, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Kyiv has lobbied the U.S. and Western allies since the first year of the war to allow the use of these missiles. So, with this development, will it change the course of the ongoing war at all? And will there be any limitations set?
Yeah, so, it's sort of, I think, this question of whether it's too little, too late. Obviously, the Biden administration is on its way out. They're only going to be in office for about 2 more months. And there's this great skepticism about whether an incoming Trump administration will continue to support Ukraine in its war against Russia, or whether it will push for some kind of negotiated settlement. So, I think there's some skepticism that it will dramatically alter the course of the war, or if this will just kind of help Ukraine maybe make some small gains before it's brought to the negotiating table. So, I think there had been some calls from some critics of the Biden administration for them to do this sooner, but obviously President Biden, with just a couple of months left in office, is taking this action and is clearly a little less worried about any potential consequences.
And what exactly do we know about the ballistic missiles in this situation? I understand they're Army tactical missile systems.
Yeah, so ATACMS for short, essentially, the acronym. But these are long-range missiles that can.
Say, is that why Joe Biden was smiling after Donald Trump won the election? Because he knew. Come on, man. Hey.
Fire about 200 miles or so in distance. They're guided missiles. So this allows Ukraine essentially to not just strike, within Ukrainian territory, but potentially hit some areas near the Russian border. This is a missile system that the Biden administration had been providing Ukraine for several months now in its war against Russia, but had, as you mentioned, sort of put these limits on how it could use them, and had urged Ukraine not to fire these ballistic missiles into Russian territory.
And Moscow has warned the U.S. about allowing Ukraine to use these long-range weapons, accusing Biden of escalating the war. What type of retaliation could we see from Russian President Vladimir Putin in the wake of this development?
Y'all see that? Moscow warns U.S. over decision. Look, bro.
Yeah, we're still waiting to hear from Putin himself as far as his reaction goes, but a spokesperson for the Kremlin sort of, lashed out at the U.S. over this move, essentially suggesting that the U.S. was pushing the world closer to global conflict, to World War III, which is, interestingly enough, sort of similar to rhetoric we've heard from President-elect Trump, where he has warned that, the Biden administration was putting the world at risk of World War III. So, we're still waiting to see whether there will be retaliation, whether Russia will.
And look, y'all voted for him. Y'all voted for him. Y'all was trying to get Kamala in office. Look what they done did.
Sort of, respond directly to the U.S., whether it will increase its forces in Ukraine or near Ukraine, or how exactly it will respond. But, I think everyone will kind of be watching to see how they respond, just given that, Putin may be looking forward just a couple of months to seeing a change in U.S. leadership.
And President-elect Trump, speaking of him, he campaigned on promises to end the war. Do you see this at all impacting his posture towards the war going forward in any way?
Yeah, I'm skeptical that it will change kind of how Trump and his team are going to view this war. Trump, obviously, and his allies have, for more than a year at this point, sort of railed against Ukraine funding from the U.S., argued that Europe should be doing more to fund Ukraine in its war against Russia, sort of questioned, what the U.S. interest was in helping Ukraine.
Y'all see that right there? We'd have provided over $56 billion in security aid. alone.
Here. And so I think there's this expectation that Congress with Trump in the White House is not going to approve additional aid for Ukraine. So, I'm not sure that this will impact how he oversees or how he sees the war moving forward, though it may further kind of push Trump to push for some kind of negotiated settlement because he may see this action by the Biden administration and see it as an escalation that he wants to cut off and just sort of push toward an agreement here.
And another angle to this story, back in October, there were reports of North Korean troops joining Russia in its war against Ukraine. That began to circulate. The U.S. has already confirmed that the troops have engaged in combat with Ukrainian soldiers. Could we see North Korea take a bigger role in this conflict?
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a risk here. Potential response to this move by the Biden administration is that maybe Russia relies more on North Korean troops, or North Korea sends more troops to aid Russia's war effort. We've already seen North Korean troops near the Russian-Ukraine border region of Kursk, and obviously the U.S. viewed that as a significant escalation that North Korea was getting involved. Again, sort of an interesting wrinkle that will be added to how Trump and his incoming administration handle this, just given that he has spoken so warmly about his relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Obviously, Trump had those 2 face-to-face meetings with the North Korean dictator. So another aspect where, it'll be interesting to watch how North Korea and Russia respond, not just to this move by the Biden administration, but how they might respond to a new Trump administration once it takes office in January.
All right, The Hill's Brett Samuels. Thanks so much for joining us. And you can find more news and analysis from Blake and our colleagues 24/7 on News Nation. To find News Nation on your screen, go to joinnn.com. And that'll do it for today's Daily Debrief. I'm Michael Schnell. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel, and come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.
Well, guys, that's the update on news. We're making some rational decisions right now. I don't agree with nothing Joe Biden has done. I'm gonna just say that now. I don't agree with nothing. Listen, y'all can help me out in the comments. Y'all can hold me accountable, do what you gotta do, but I'm just telling y'all I don't agree with everything that's been going on with Biden and his administration. Shout out to Elon Musk for everything that he's doing and the things they're putting together. Be prepared for what's to come. I'm telling y'all, once Trump get in the office, look, we got about 2 months, right, before he get in the White House, right? With over the next 2 months, 60 days, there's gonna be some wild stuff going on. All right, so prepare yourselves, expect the unexpected, and just stay on y'all pivot. Do what y'all gotta do, man. We gone.